Okay, so let's talk about the Battle of Jericho. We all know the story, right? The Israelites march around the city, the trumpets blast, and the walls just fall down. It's one of the most famous stories out there. But what if I told you there's a key detail missing from the version we all know? A little clue hidden in the original Hebrew that suggests the very first trumpet wasn't even blown by a priest. Sounds crazy, I know. So let's dig into this.
So that's the central question we're going to tackle together. Who really blew that first incredible wall-shattering blast? Now, the answer seems super obvious, but as you're about to see, there is a genuine mystery hiding right there in plain sight, just waiting for us to piece it all together.
All right, so if you ask pretty much anyone this question, you're going to get the same answer. And you know what? It's for a really good reason. It comes directly from the text most of us read. It seems completely straightforward. Maybe a little too straightforward.
I mean, look at Joshua chapter 6, verse 8. It couldn't really be any clearer, could it? It says the 7 priests, the holy man leading this whole procession, they blew the trumpets. And the original Hebrew verb here is plural, which means they were all acting together as a group. A coordinated blast from the priests. Simple.
So, case closed, right? End of story? Nope, not even close. See, this is where our real investigation kicks off, because the English translation, while it's not wrong, it misses something. A subtle but incredibly powerful detail. It's kind of like a secret message written in invisible ink, right there in the original text.
And the key to unlocking this whole thing is a tiny 2-letter Hebrew word, a word that is almost always lost in translation. Why? Because it doesn't really have a direct equivalent in English, so translators usually just leave it out. But in leaving it out, we might just be missing a massive part of the story.
That word is Aleph-Tav. Now, grammatically, it's just a particle that points to a direct object. But on a much deeper level, it's so much more. You see, Aleph and Tav are the very first and very last letters of the Hebrew alphabet, kind of like our A and Z. Because of that, many see it as symbolic. Think of it like a divine signature, or a watermark, a way for the text to subtly say, God was here, or maybe this belongs to God.
And you can see this in action right from the get-go in the very first verse of the Bible, Genesis 1:1. In the original Hebrew, boom, there it is, the Aleph-Tav right before the heavens and again before the earth. But then you look over at the English translation, and it's just gone, vanished. It's an invisible marker silently pointing out what belongs to the divine creator.
So here's the crucial part. What happens when we take this new piece of the puzzle and apply it back to our original mystery? Well, let's go back to Jericho and read that text again, but this time, we're going to look for that hidden signature.
And what do you know? We find it. It's right there. In Joshua chapter 6, verse 4, when God himself is giving the instructions, the text says the priests will carry Aleph-Tav 7 trumpets. The signature is placed directly on the very instruments of victory. It's like God is stamping his name on them.
And it doesn't just show up once. It's there again in verse 8, right as the action is about to begin. The priests are carrying Aleph-Tav 7 trumpets. The text also puts this divide marker right before the Ark of the Covenant. It's like a watermark, claiming divine ownership over the 2 most important items in the entire plan.
And this, right here, is the heart of the whole interpretation. If the Aleph-Tav is acting as God's signature, marking his ownership, well, then the trumpets don't really belong to the priests, do they? They belong to God. And if he owns them, he holds the ultimate authority over them, which means he gets to blow the first blast.
So this changes everything. It gives us a completely new sequence of events. First, you have the Aleph-Tav, marking the shofars as divinely owned. This suggests that the first blast didn't come from an earthly priest at all, but was a divine one, straight from heaven. And only after that heavenly signal did the priests on the ground respond with their coordinated blast. It wasn't them starting it, it was them responding to it. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's a pretty cool idea, but maybe it's just a one-off thing for the story of Jericho. But here's what makes this so compelling. It's not. When we start applying this interpretive key consistently, an absolutely incredible pattern emerges all throughout the Hebrew Scriptures.
In fact, when we look across some pretty foundational texts, we see this same pattern over and over. Whenever God is the one explicitly speaking, that little Aleph-Tav often appears, marking objects that are under his direct authority. In Genesis, it's all of creation. In Numbers, it's the special silver trumpets. In Deuteronomy, it's the Torah scroll itself. And then you get to Isaiah, where God literally uses the concept of first and last, the Aleph and the Tav, to identify himself. So Jericho fits perfectly into this established pattern. It's not an outlier, it's a confirmation.
So what does all this mean? What's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it's about learning to read between the lines, or in this case, learning to see the powerful little words that don't even get translated.
This gives you a really powerful new tool for reading and understanding these ancient texts. Here's the principle in a nutshell. When God is the one speaking in the text, and you see that Aleph-Tav, it can be read as a signal of his direct ownership or his authority. It's a signature of divine action, a tiny clue pointing to a much, much bigger reality. So, who blew the first shofar at Jericho? Well, according to this interpretation, it wasn't a priest. It was God himself, initiating the victory from heaven. It's a pretty stunning reminder that sometimes the biggest secrets are hidden in the smallest details. And you know, it leaves us with a really fascinating question. If something this big was hiding in plain sight all this time, what other secrets are just waiting to be discovered in the stories we thought we knew so well?